Hello, my name is Graham Young and I am about to do a walk around and commentary of my Cyberpunk City, which I created in Second Life. Now the street names are all named after authors who wrote about metaverses. So Wachowski, they wrote The Matrix, which became a rather famous series of films in the late 90s, early 2000s. Neil Stevenson wrote Snow Crash, which was a seminal cyberpunk book in which the term metaverse was coined. Now, there's some debate about what the actual definition of a metaverse is. Some people would tell you that it has to be a three-dimensional visual space with 3D avatars and all that good stuff, but the most commonly held thing is about interoperability. Everything in a metaverse must be able to be interoperable with everything else. So you can think of it as an area of machine space where it's a closed realm where everything can interoperate with each other. The internet would, under that definition, be an example of a metaverse. Especially in its early form, as envisaged by Tim Berners-Lee in the late 80s, early 90s. I've got a wee recording studio here. This is a bit of kind of crossover with real life for me. I am actually an audio engineer, an audio technologist really now by trade and by education. I've done a couple of big projects on the cognitive psychology of how human beings hear and process immersive virtual environments, and for that matter how they process real life, because frankly the psychology side of it amounts to exactly the same thing, which is audio scene generation. Basically how your brain takes all the disparate information coming into it and generates a three-dimensional audio scene from it. There's a lot of East Asian imagery, what's the word I'm looking for? Iconography, maybe. The buildings are very East Asian, these narrow streets. It's like something you would maybe see in Korea or maybe Japan. The reason for this is a cyberpunk trope. William Gibson set a sprawl in East Asia because he was determined that he wasn't writing some Pax American, American space kind of future that was very common in the 80s in sci-fi. Two girls giving class there. These my local plus is from a Clockwork Orange. Clockwork Orange was written in the 60s, well before the term cyberpunk was coined, but it does actually satisfy a lot of the kind of stipulations for being a cyberpunk novel. It has high tech and low life. It has dystopian future, bad government, corruption, violence, also drugs. So Măyăcυc plus Drenchrome. Drenchrome was a kind of truncation of adrenochrome. Synthemesc is short for synthetic mescaline. What was the other one? Velycit. Velycit is from I believe, Latin word for flight. But I think it's flight in the sense of running, you know, like fight or flight, rather than flight in the sense of flapping your wings or getting in a plane and taking to the air. So that's for the speedy drugs, methadone, methamphetamine, that kind of stuff. Hack the planet. Hacktivism is something I've always been interested in. Never broke into any remote systems, but when I was young, some friends and I did bypass copy protection on discs so we could spread games around. We did it in the Commodore 64, the Amiga 500, and also the PlayStation, the first PlayStation. It was a bit different from the 64 and the Amiga. You bypass protection on them by loading the program or game that you wanted to copy in. Use a freezer cartridge to freeze it and disassemble it. Disassembling it basically meaning get a memory dump of the assembly language. Then from there you could find entry points, and when you had the entry points it was a case of using some, I think they called them crunchers or packers back then, but a very long time ago, so I wouldn't like to be quoted on it, but these programs, I think they must have worked by going through the assembly code, through every jump command until the end point was reached, and then could dump the contents of the memory onto another disk with the copy protection gone. PlayStation was a bit different with that. What you did was you soldered in chips that bypassed the copy protection. Very easily available chips that you could get from any electronics store. From what I remember, they weren't at all difficult to obtain, they cost next to nothing. And I can talk about all that openly because we get caught. So whatever punishment was meted out already been done a long time ago. These discs here, click them and they send text to your nearby chat window, and it contains the backstory to all the Sims that we've ever built. When I say we, the prime movers behind it were myself and someone called Evi Fenway, who when one of the drones got taken apart and we were all homeless, she actually put up the resources for us to build a new place to stay. I was the one, if I remember rightly, poured the poison in her ear in the first place, trying to, you know, I thought it would be a great idea if we all put a couple of thousand Londons a month in and use it to have our own place, but she took that burden entirely on herself. Now, here we have a Commodore PET and some ancient IBM monstrosity. Commodore PET, the one on the left. My father had one of these in the house in the 70s. They were quite extortionate back then. So him and some other folk at work, I think, had some kind of syndicate where they would take a week about having this thing in their house. So when it was his turn, I got to play around with it for a week. And I was about 4 or 5 years old then, and I've been hooked ever since. Don't remember ever not having a computer that I poked around with since then. And back then you literally did poke around with them. If you wanted them to do anything, you had to poke memory locations. If you were using BASIC, if you were using assembly language, you could load and store things directly into memory locations and retrieve them. In BASIC, you poked the memory location to put something in, and you peeked it to read what was in and have the computer act on it. Another cyberpunk trope, biohacking. Biotech enhancing human bodies. Often this was to have things that would let you plug something into your neck that would jack you into the matrix, as it were, or the cyberspace, as Gibson called it, the metaverse, as Stevenson called it. All the seminal authors had a version of it. And Philip K. Dick's The Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, which was a kind of proto-cyberpunk story. They used memory implants that they somehow grafted into the brain. I've actually wrote my own cyberpunk story here. I had a lot of fun doing that. Basically incorporated all of these concepts. And basically a long story about my experiences in Second Life, really. In this garage here we have budding marijuana plants under sodium lamps. And then here,
security scan complete.
Showers.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Don't ask me why the showers
Security
have
scan
got
complete.
a
Thank you for
security
your
scanner and the
cooperation.
biohacker's lab doesn't. I really don't know why I made that decision at the time. That is the Ford V8 Interceptor from Mad Max. Can't remember offhand what car it was based on, but I know it was a Ford of some description. Here we have a storeroom full of nasty stuff, biohazard, radioactive, property of Arkham Asylum. I don't know what the hell that is, but whatever it is, I can't imagine it would be nice. And obviously you need a hacker's den. This desk here actually looks somewhat like the one I'm sitting at as I make this video. Behind the camera there are screens aplenty. Don't have a massive server rack because I don't really have any need for that, but I do have the desk strewn with all manner of debris, half-eaten meals and what all. Books, plenty of books. Half pizzas, smoking cigarettes that haven't been put out yet. So these rubbish sounds. If I show up the transparent rooms, these are transparent and they are phantom, which means you can walk through them without a bump. If I walk into this, which is not phantom, you can see it doesn't work. You can't walk through it, but I can with these audio rooms. And the way they work, if I open one of them up, do a bit of surgery on it, as this tin can sound here, a tin can being kicked basically by me. It's triggered by this script, so if the status is phantom, volume detect is true, collision start, meaning that on a collision with an avatar, the first sound in the prum will be played at volume 1.0, which is maximum. Quite simple, nothing terribly complicated there. I'm not that great with high level modern coding languages. I find them very clunky and very, they require a level of patience and organisation that I'm not sure I possess. Oh, nice reel to reel. Actually, when my old work on a Ministry of Defence site, or a site at least with Ministry of Defence projects going on it, they were very fastidious about destruction of obsolete data. So me and my colleague, two of us, had to empty a fucking warehouse full of these tape reels and take them to a van at the other end of the site, half a mile away, to be incinerated. This was with me moaning incessantly the whole way through it, that nowadays every bastarding one of the reels would fit on a single USB pen drive. These very simple server sound. I actually just put the recording device up to a near handling unit. I found one out in the boonies so that I wasn't standing poking this thing around the town centre where everyone would wonder what the hell I was up to. And this script here simply makes the sound loop. So the end of the sound joins to the beginning of it. Now, as a matter of fact, with the random collision ones, looping sounds, playing sounds, stopping sounds, changing the volume of sounds, and playing sounds at random. If you can do all that, you can make any soundscape you want, regardless of how complex it is. There's basically no limit to how sophisticated a soundscape you can make just with these simple rules. It's kind of like Turing completeness for audio rather than computing. This Soylent Green, if anyone hasn't seen that movie, it's a 70s classic. I would advise watching it. When poor people die in the future, why let their bodies go to waste when they can be used to feed other poor people in a generous donation from the capitalist society to the poor? Fear is a prison. Fear is a Prison is a musical project that I work on. A way of basically venting my frustrations with political injustices that make me angry without dreary business of getting shouted at, punched, or getting death threats. This picture, I think she's actually a famous actress. I can't remember her name offhand, but I actually did download the JPEG in good faith, but I'm pretty sure it's the head of a famous actress that's been grafted onto someone else's body. I do have a lot of this imagery in my futurist work. I quite like ties and being smartly dressed and feeding that into a future that's ultra conformist, where I have the people who kind of get to live in society all dressed up like this, as I am and she is, and the ones that are kept out look like I do in my other mode of dress when I'm not like this. I wear leather biker's jackets and jeans that are falling apart, so I kind of flit from one extreme to the other. And here's something you don't see very often: a DeLorean that does not have a time machine built into it. This is basically the car in the form that DeLorean envisaged it. You can't really see well because of the dim light here, but in the American version the rear lights were divided up into little squares and rectangles. In the British version they had to be one solid light because of legal standards over here that are different. Again with the audio scripts, this one is probably the simplest one of all. It reacts to touch with the mouse pointer. So touch start, trigger sound, maximum volume. Again, very simple. BIM video phone here.
Welcome to BIM video phone.
In the 80s, if you watch things like Blade Runner, Total Recall,
please insert your card.
I think Total Recall was actually early 90s, but regardless, they had this idea, 2001 as well actually, there'd be public phone boxes with big cathode ray video screens. It does not seem to have occurred to anyone that you might be carrying around the video studio and screen in your pocket in the future. Although that said, Clive Sinclair, the eccentric 80s genius from Cambridge in Britain, did build a television set that fitted in your pocket back in the 80s, and it did work. Gibson, as I've already mentioned, William Gibson wrote Neuromancer, in which he coined the term cyberspace to describe machine space, what we would call the internet now, really. And also the cyberpunk genre, he's credited with starting that. These textures sometimes take a few seconds to bake in Second Life. If this was like Unreal or, I'm showing my age there, Bioshock maybe, or that game where you pull people out of cars and mug them, Grand Theft Auto, nobody would tolerate a texture taking several seconds to bake in one of those games. It just would not be. No one would put up with it. But in here you can get away with it because you're not going to get jumped by zombies or shot at or anything like that. It's just not the way it rolls in here. So you can get away with a few seconds for baking textures. I don't know if these ones and zeros up here, I do love skulls and I love ones and zeros. I don't know if these ones and zeros have any specific message behind them or whether they're just randomly generated. It could be that if you were to turn them into hex, you would start to see ASCII characters and be able to build English text from it, but I have never actually been bothered to find out. Werner Vinge wrote True Names, another metaverse novel. He kind of picked up to a T what it would be like in places like Second Life. Even get the sexual exploits down where, you could have 25-year-old female avatars controlled by 75-year-old male users. As a matter of fact, my avatar here is a youngish woman most of the time. However, I'm not really interested in Second Life for sexual exploits. This abandoned overpass, I really just put it in here to demonstrate the level of dilapidation rather than because it serves any useful sort of utilitarian purpose. This old car here is a Soviet Union Măyăcık 403. The reason I've included it in here is because my first family car was one of those. We got it from my grandfather. Why he bought it, I will never fucking understand. Absolutely dreadful automobile. You could hear my father coming home before he, when we were still at the edge of town, because of how loud the backfires were from it. These Măyăcık Hekirekikj. They're a nasty chemical from the 1989 Batman film starring Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton. Another classic which I would urge anyone to watch should they not have seen it already. These flying machines, you can get in them and actually fly them. We've got fuel here for them and ground power units and tools, so this is basically an MRO oscilloscopes. Commodore 64, the best selling computer I think of all time, even to this day. We'll call this building the Hanoi Hilton. It's one of the JPK Kowloon buildings. Now these are excellent. Every cyberpunk sim builder should have one of these. You can take them apart, you have full permissions over everything. So you can take them apart and rebuild them in your own style. So really good to have for building these kind of places. The back alley here, I think that is Veronis. They're really good things to have too. And this burger stand, this was inspired by the noodle place in Blade Runner where Deckard demonstrates with the old dude over the meal that he was ordering. Waitress I quite like, you find her quite easy in the eye.
Time, stop asking about the smell. We don't know what it is either.
That was made by my friend Lydia and I for one of the drones where they wanted a station in down there. So we put a whole load of these wee audio clips together and they would trigger at random when you get off the train. It was a fun project. We were working for Sparkle Bottom Laser Tits in that one. He was quite well known in the kind of cyber circles back in those days. Haven't seen her for quite a while, I don't know what she's doing with herself now. The old modem sound. Dial-up modems and fax back in the 90s up to about the year 2000 they used to actually modulate rather the ones and zeros into pulse code audio. So a big pulse would be a 1 and a small pulse would be a 0, that kind of thing. At the other end, the modem, another computer would demodulate them back into 1s and 0s. And it was a reasonably effective, nowhere near as fast as modern broadband, but back then it worked for us. Had a lot of fun with it. Speaking of the Amiga piracy, my friend and I used to go on BBS
Conformity is freedom.
with a modem he'd got from God knows where. It lasted for about a month, I think, till his mother saw the first bill. There were no deals for internet access then. If you called a computer in Australia, you paid the price as if you were talking to someone in Australia, which back in those days cost a fucking fortune. Then we all eventually moved over to these kind of Netanyahu packages that became big in the 90s. Here we have a prison. Oh, it's not so much a prison, it's a police station, but it does have a still functional cell in it. And a policewoman.
Move along, fuckface.
On guard. And here we have a... don't know if he's crawled, there he goes. We have a cloned dodo. Definitely looks as though there's something wrong with him. No, there he goes. Sex shop. Not spend too much time looking at stuff in there because I would really like this video to go on YouTube without getting taken down by censors.
Activate. Stand by.
Here with all the radiation in this place that have been built in an old nuclear reactor, it's good to have a bit of decontamination. Quite close. Oh, again with the big TV screens. No one realised they would be in your pocket. So Ernest Cline is the guy who wrote Ready Player One, which is another metaverse story that was made into a pretty cool film on Netflix. I believe I actually have the book sitting down there somewhere, but can't immediately see it. Oh, there it is, yeah. I still haven't read it yet, it's on the list. So here I just recorded some office sounds. In fact, I don't think I even did record these ones. I think I got them from the Free Sound project. If I goes to... there you go, transparency. So I've just dotted a few prims around the place. And, whoops. Now you open one of them up. That's utterly amazing. I can go for 3 days without anyone trying to contact me. Then the minute I decide to make a video, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 messages. So, anyway. These sounds are triggered at random. Integer random ILL if run. That's actually LL London was. If run sounds. So yeah, basically triggers the sounds in the list here at random, and when you copy the from and dot a few of them around the place, you can actually build up quite a thick kind of office soundscape. It's pretty cool and immersive. Oh, here's a DeLorean with the time machine built into it. And another cyberpunk trope, rampant crime. You've got a murder victim. You've got an Ed 209, these bad boys were in Robocop. They would shoot you just for looking at them the wrong way. And here we have just about the worst toilet in Second Life. And the worst I've found so far anyway. You would need to be extremely desperate to sit in one of those pans. The one from that, I forgot about that, the soundscape there works in exactly the same way as the town hall office, but the sounds are built into these. I got these simply by recording my own washing machine and cutting them into little clips that are triggered at random. Again, when you start copying them around, you can build quite the soundscape from them. Hissing steam. Now I think this cyberpunk trope actually came from Blade Runner, because they'd built a set onto a Los Angeles street, and during the day it looked absolutely ridiculous, so obviously fake, but they filmed it at night and they had this water vapour everywhere, so it kind of diffused the light, and when they did that it looked really great. Here we've got a bong. Some nice cushions you can sit cross-legged on and get smoked up. A bit of steampunk in here. This is an old mechanical computer of some kind. The data seems to be stored on this rotating drum, and it seems to be read and written by this comb-like structure here. And that's about as detailed and inner workings of it as I think you're going to get. Now, Reanimator H.P. Lovecraft, way back in the early 20th century. He was reimagined in the 1980s as a series of films where he was played by Jeffrey Combs, and as well as the Reanimator, he also played Wei Yung in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This no skateboarding sign, I saw this in Monmouth in South Wales when I was visiting down there. It didn't look quite like that at the time, but I took a photo of it. It was in an alleyway outside Waitrose. I took a photo of it and then rejigged it a bit. And these ramps, I do have a skateboard. You can actually, when you get used to it, do some stunts on these ramps. Get some there and do kick flips and varials and no complies and that kind of cool stuff. Used to love skateboards when I was a kid, teenager, but I gave it up because I got too many broken wrists. And I was starting to realise that my luck would run out and it would be my head I landed on one of these times. This is pretty cool. This is a faithful representation of the Reactor 4 control room at Chernobyl. Oh, you clutch that. It even has the famous, on this panel, AZ5 switch, which was partly responsible for causing the explosion. Now, I've actually read up on this rather than just watching the HBO TV series. They made Dyatlov, the engineer in charge, out to be an absolute diddy. They had him running around denying there'd been an explosion. In reality, he knew at once that the reactor had been compromised, and it was actually his quick thinking and cutting off routes for electrical fires to spread to reactor 3 that stopped the situation from being much worse. If reactor 3 had blown as well, it took the whole resources of the Soviet Union, which controlled 15 countries at the time, to get reactor 4 under control. If they'd had 2 reactors that were fucked, it could have poisoned most of Europe. Those sounds, they are actually from a nuclear reactor. I managed to get hold of them on the internet and never been in a nuclear reactor myself. I'd actually kind of like to visit one just out of curiosity, if not to hang around it all the time like the people that work on it. Although I haven't got authority that it's actually nowhere near as bad for you as smoking a few cigarettes a day. This building's quite cool. There's lots of nice wee hidey holes on it you can have a nose around in. There's even a bed you can put your avatar to sleep in here if you're so tragically sad that you go as far as putting your avatar to bed before you log out in the evenings. These walkways were just built to have a kind of convenient way to get around. Get some really nice buildings over there. I've got these really cheap. From one end of that street to the other, I got all of these buildings for less than 1,000 Londons, which is just a few US dollars. I was very pleased with that. These art galleries, we've got some friends who keep galleries on the site. We like them because they liven the place up a bit and it causes us no inconvenience to have them here. So it's kind of a win-win situation. And round here is a shopping arcade, which again, it's one of those JPK Kowloon buildings. that you can take apart. I actually took them apart and used them to build the outer walls. Scandal, Japanese band, going with the whole East Asian vibe. That was years ago in about 2010, I think, when they were not long started out. Nowadays they're all in their 30s. Time flies and waits for no one. One minute you're leaving school, the next minute you're pushing 40. In my case now nearly 50. When I was 40 I didn't have all this white highlight stuff going on here. Still had colour to it. Speaking of which, these are really colourful builds. You get a lot of the kind of neon that you associate with cyberpunk. Strangely, you kind of make things look futuristic nowadays by making them look 80s. That's the outer wall there that I was talking about. Kind of just to give the impression that this is a city block, that it doesn't necessarily stop here. It did have pictures with skyscrapers and all that around it before, but it kind of broke the immersion when you got too close to them and you could see that it was 2D. So I've taken them away and built these kind of semi 2.5 dimensional walls instead. This place here is called the Red Room. It's a pretty faithful reconstruction of the Penal Club that you used to find in the drone sims.
Remember, war is peace.
Somebody who had not been in Penal for years, if they walked in here, would probably not realise it wasn't the actual one. Now, we used to have the actual Penal build as built by its original creator, but it was stolen from us by a pair of bastards who shall remain nameless. But they fucking know who they are, and we know who they are. Now, where to? Over here. This is this lady up here is called Natasha Espinosa. She's a Canadian tailor. She makes really cool suits and models them herself, and she is quite lovely. I liked her up there because, again, I actually thought she looked kind of like a real life version of my avatar here. Maybe not so much when she's wearing this purple cyber hair, but when she wears her hair down, she does kind of look like her. And finally, we have Glitter and Tam Bee Trouble's art gallery. They are kind of the photographers of the sim. They, if you want your photo taken, they're the people to ask. In fact, there's one of my avatar there, and another one with angelic wings. Now, I am just about approaching an hour into doing this video. although I will be chopping some of the beginning off because I needed to have some extraneous stuff that I'm going to use for syncing things up, because it will have 2 video streams. Now, wee bit of an immersion breaker, I'm just going to jump down here. You can never get away with that in real life, but since Fiona, my avatar, experiences neither pain nor injury nor fear, I think we can just do that in the interest of saving time. The forklift here actually goes and it actually handles like a proper forklift. Which is to say, it's the opposite of a car. A car steers from the front and the fulcrum's at the back. A forklift, the fulcrum's at the front and it steers from the back. So the first day you ever drive a forklift and they tell you to move it, the first thing you usually do is kick the back end away out and end up knocking everything around you flying. And that's exactly how I would teach someone, because when you do that, it's a very good illustration of what would happen if you kick the back end out when there's a person nearby it. And these things generate some pretty worrying forces. In fact, if someone is not mildly worried when they're forklifting with folk round about them, I wouldn't even let them near the forklift. Here we have a ghost, haunted church, and again it's a little bit of scripting here. This script causes the alpha to increase and decrease, which causes it to fade in and out. So the alpha is basically a transparent channel. It's a bit of a rigmarole explaining it to people who are not interested in digital visual art. But if you think of the alpha as being a transparent channel, when you have more alpha and less of the main channel, you'll see it fading in and out, like so. And we've also got a haunted graveyard here with a lot of ghosts and ghouls and bats and stuff in it. You can see a mist spider floating around there. And we'll just draw this to an end, I think. I am starting to run out of things to say now, and most of the major sites have been looked at already. It's this bookshop which Mira, a friend, kindly raised for us. Not really had a proper look around it yet. I think it looks pretty fucking cool. I really do love nosing around second-hand bookshops and stuff in real life. That's one thing I love about South Wales. If you go to places like Hekirekika.jinn, it's Bookshop City down there. You can find all sorts of books in there that you would maybe never find anywhere else. And there we go. That's us at the edge of the sun. There's nowhere really to go from here. So, if you have made it all the way to the end of this presentation, I am very impressed and grateful to you. So, thank you very much. That's awesome. And I will just sign off here.